What's going on, my lovelies? It's Kyle here. I want to talk about our hearts today and why it's important to not always follow your heart. The saying, listen to your heart, follow your heart. Within our cultures and society today, there tends to be this oversimplification, especially within the spiritual community, of our hearts are always the way. Always listen to your heart, always follow your heart, always do what your heart desires. And it's a bunch of bullshit. Not always. For the most part, it's quite true. But we have to reflect and we have to dive into the complexities and the nuances of our hearts and why they don't always know what's best for us and why they don't always lead us down directions in our lives that are best, towards people that can be frankly quite toxic for us. And here's why. So just like our minds, our hearts to some degree are programmed. I do believe that there's an aspect of our hearts that is very pure, that is very much connected to our essence or our soul or the core of our being. But there's also some gunk up in here. There's also some aspect of our heart that is not truly us, that does not have the best intentions for ourselves. And the reason behind that is that when we are growing up, just like our mind is programmed, our hearts are programmed. Our hearts latch on to certain patterns, to certain people, to certain dynamics. And in many of these cases, they are not what's best for us. They are just familiar. They are what our hearts have learned to love, despite the negative influences on ourselves, despite it not being the best for ourselves. Now just take a second here, because there is undoubtedly heaps of truth to this perspective. Why is it that a person who grew up in a toxic household, a part of a somewhat abusive family dynamic, perhaps their mother did not treat them very well, or their father, or perhaps there's particular dynamics that they had between one of their parents, or their siblings, or some of their childhood friends. And you see there's an aspect of our hearts that grow akin to normalcy, to what they know, what they have learned to love and accept as their realities. So in a lot of instances, there are so many people that enter abusive relationships, and once they get to the point where it's undoubtedly very, very negative for themselves, they still stay within it. They don't walk away. Now, I understand that some of these situations are much more complex and can be quite dangerous. But in a lot of these situations where you have the ability to walk away, there's nothing stopping you. But you choose to stay in that relationship because you say you love this person, because you say you want to help them, because you want to. In a lot of these situations, when you reflect back to this person's past, so many of these people are playing out dynamics that their hearts attached to, that their hearts were programmed to love and accept at the bare minimum. And now their hearts are now attracted to these people that are playing out these dynamics again from their childhood. Or perhaps their hearts themselves as children were very devalued or pushed down or show that they're not worth much. So now that they are attracted to people, may it be friends or romantic partners, that devalue them as well. Or perhaps their hearts continuously lead them in directions of life that are not in their best interest, that frankly hinder them in their potential. So we need to not always follow our hearts. Please don't always follow your heart, because it's just as much wisdom and love and truth that we can find in our hearts. There can always be just as much fickleness, toxicity, latching on to things that aren't what's best for us. We need to dive into the nuances and complexities of our hearts and parse out what is genuinely good for us, what is genuinely resonant with our essence, with our soul, with our true self, and then parse out what is fickle, what we're latching onto because of a past pattern, that we continuously put ourselves in situations where we endure unhealthy situations, unhealthy people, abusive situations that are not fair to us. And frankly, we deserve better. So just to push back, the age-old saying, always follow your heart. Always listen to your heart. I surely believe you should always listen to your heart, but that doesn't mean you need to act upon what it says. Doesn't mean you need to act upon what people it latches onto, where you naturally want to go. You see, you shouldn't always follow your heart, especially if you see the same pattern occurring over and over and over again, that you were attracted to people that are unhealthy, that you were attracted to dynamics from your childhood that were abusive, unhealthy, devaluing for you. And sometimes you need to get up in there. You need to say, listen, heart, this isn't what's best for me. This isn't what's best for us. And isn't what's best for you. You were taught to accept this dynamic, this situation. You were taught to not value yourself, to not know your worth, and to take abuse because that's what you learned to do. That's what you were programmed to do. So, in our best efforts, we need to try to reprogram our hearts. We need to try to upgrade them. And I'll dive into that in a future video. But for now, you need to know you shouldn't always follow your heart. Take a step back. Reflect on your past, on your childhood, on the dynamics that went along. See what your heart is attracted to that is unhealthy for you, that is toxic for you, that is leading you, frankly, to abusive situations. And when you see that pattern come up again, where you see your heart going down that path, wanting you to fall in love with these people that aren't good for you, drawn to these situations that aren't good for you, that is when you need to stop following your heart, at least for now. Hopefully, over time, when you heal your heart, where you drop off the programming that is not in your best interest, and you upgrade your heart to be more reflective of your true self, of your true desires, and create a connection to your soul through your heart, that is when you can truly follow it. If not all the time, then the majority of the time. But we need to realize that in many cases, there are aspects of our hearts that are very much fickle, that don't necessarily want the best for us, and that frankly latch on to things and people that we should frankly let go of and not go towards. So once again, don't always follow your heart. It's not what's best for you at all times. I'll leave it there. Hope you're having a lovely day wherever you're at in the world. And until next time.